Hey everyone, it is, I don't know, Tuesday, 24th. I just wanted to do another video here of, well, we're not working much. And I think this is sort of a good place to show you guys what it looks like after a harvest many years later. Now, this is a job that I did. I was still cutting wood by hand. I had a 1984 or 85, I think it was an 85 John Deere 440D, and I had a mid-late 80s 24,000 hood slasher, and this was the second summer, or no, the first full summer I cut wood by hand. So I was 20 years old, or almost 20. I can't remember if I had turned 20 yet when I did this job. And it was up the road from where I grew up, and it was fairly heavy to pine, and cut it fairly hard. But this, and I've seen other YouTubers with similar channels try to show this sort of time lapse per se, and I haven't really seen any good ones because they're showing something 4 or 5 years later, and this is about 15 years. And so as you can look around right behind me, these are nice pines that are probably now 15 feet tall, and these weren't here when I cut. So this was, and I, like I said, I cut this all by hand. And you can see some of the more open areas are where my skid trails were, but look how much this has grown up. And anybody, we'll just take a little walk through here. Anybody that doesn't know, or the general public that may, this is what you want to see. This is, yeah, it takes time, but this is what the forest does. I mean, look out there. Look at that. All nice pine regeneration. Heavy pine regeneration. There's a few hardwoods left that I didn't cut while I was in here. But this is forestry. And this is Mother Nature doing its job. Regrowing and kind of putting it back in place. So I wanted to show this because they're just, I know a lot of the people on the channel kind of work in the industry anyways, but for the people that might come across this, that own property and are thinking about cutting it and are unsure because of some job that they've seen that they thought looked bad after it was done. I mean, this is what time does, and none of this was here. And I mean, look how tall that stuff is. And it's gonna take a while. I mean, I'm young enough where I might be a little older, but I'll get to see this cut again if somebody doesn't build a house here. So it does bring, it's kind of nostalgic. It brings me back to much younger time. I mean, look at that. Yeah, I mean, it's a clump of soft maples, but look how much that's grown. It's amazing to come and take a look at something that you've kind of put away. We do all these jobs, and you don't ever really go back to them all and look at it again. So if you went through the catalog of the jobs you've done during your career, and especially for people that have been in this a long time, or if you're a landowner, think of this, 15 years goes pretty quick. And look at that. Look at all this pine. And so if you're thinking about cutting your land or unsure, because this is very healthy, very productive, it puts money into the economy. Hey, I mean, this is basically a great big carbon filter out here, or CO2, or let's help Mother Nature out and do a good job at the same time, you know. So anyways, I thought this would be an interesting little video while I'm not working. And like I said, this was back in the beginning of my career with a couple 046 steel chainsaws and a cable skidder and I had a slasher for a little while, and I did this job probably 3 or 4 years before I ever had cut to length. But I just like coming back here and looking at it and seeing how this has kind of come back to life and replanted itself. And there's always this misconception in the woods business about with maybe some landowners or certain people, and usually it's one contractor or logger that took advantage of somebody and either didn't pay them or did a real rough job that gives the perception that somehow, not everybody, but that a lot of loggers are crude or that they take advantage of people, which is just not true. And even if this job was done by somebody that did a real bad job, it's still going to grow back. But it's just showing you that, if we're not here, Mother Nature is going to do her thing. But it shows you that if you do it right, it'll look at all that nice pine coming up. So anyways, basically, practicing forestry over time consistently on your property will grow wood. And if you don't do it, you'll end up with a real big gap, because you won't have any of this young stuff growing. The idea is to cut your forest and get this undergrowth coming up, so that you plan your harvests out, and you might have 3 or 4 entries before you've done do an overstory, which an overstory might be like that little run of hardwood through there, and you would take all that merchantable wood out, and then you'd have this understory ready to go. Now, people who don't practice forestry for one reason or another, and you have an even age stand of timber, when you go to cut it, the whole property is going to be, it's going to look pretty flat, or there's going to be no undergrowth to support new growth. So basically, be diligent and be smart about it, and treat your property like it's a long-term stock market investment. And we all know that people who don't panic in the stock market are the ones who make out. Weather the ups and downs, but always invest, and you will be the one that benefits the most in the end. Treat your property like that, manage it carefully and diligently, and in the end, the property and you will make out much better. So anyways, thought I'd do that. Everybody, keep washing your hands, keep your distance. We'll make it through this thing. Like, subscribe, comment, and we'll catch you later.